Hi, my name is Bryan and today I'm going to be talking about the reasons you must consider becoming a foster parent. What if I told you that according to the Congressional Coalition on Adoption, there are over 397,000 children living in foster care in the United States alone today? That means there are 397,000 children living away from their parents, 397,000 children that feel afraid and don't know what the future holds, or that need somebody to take care of them, and that somebody could be you. You and I can and should provide a home, whether temporary or permanent, to a child in need, especially if you consider yourself to be a believer in Christ. When Christ talked about doing unto the least of these, and he talked about things like taking care of widows and orphans, and foster kids are that. They are children who are in need of parental figures. The question is not this, should you consider foster parenting, but the question is, if you don't, who will? A famous advocate for orphans, Mother Teresa, said this. She said, "The hunger for love is much more difficult to remove than the hunger for bread." So I guess at this point you're probably wondering if I put my money where my mouth is, and if I live this out, or if I just talk about it. I'd like to introduce you to two people. These are my two foster sons. This is AJ, and this is Jacob. AJ is 2, and Jacob is just a little over 1. There are foster sons who we're hoping to adopt, but a couple of years ago, my wife and I decided that we should do what we can to take care of orphans and to take care of children who need a home. And so we brought AJ home, and then about a year later, little brother was a surprise, but we brought him home next. And they are our very best things. We love them more than anything in the world. They're hard, and some days are hard, but they're very rewarding overall. And knowing that we're doing something good for those kids is huge. So first I'm going to inform you of the need for foster parents, then I'll tell you some of the reasons why children come into care, and finally I'm going to show you that you can change the world by opening your home to these children. So the need for foster parents, I already shared with you there's over 397,000 children in foster care today. Wikipedia defines foster care as a system in which a minor has been placed into a ward, group home, or private home, referred to as a foster parent. It says the placement of the child is usually arranged through the government or a social agency. So a lot of students or children are just waiting on a place or in a transitional home, and oftentimes we'll say, if I had a bigger house, if I had more money. But there are people who are doing it who don't have a huge house and don't have a lot of money. My wife and I included. We have a modest house and we make just an average income, but we don't let that be an excuse. So now I'll tell you some of the reasons children come into foster care. Adoption.about.com says some of the reasons they come into care or out of their parents' custody are physical abuse, probably the most common, sexual abuse, neglect, medical neglect, incarceration of their parents or loved ones, abandonment, truancy, death of a parent, or they're voluntarily placed due to their behavior or a parent's health. So just because a child, no matter what the reasoning is to come in need, but just because they're in foster care doesn't mean they don't need love, or they don't have basic needs, or that they don't need someone to feed them, bathe them, and take care of them. They need a home. They need a place to play. They need somebody to brush their hair. They need somebody to tell them they love them. They need everything every other child needs. My wife loves this quote by blogger Jody Landers, which speaks volumes to the life of being a foster parent. It says this: "Children born to another woman call me mom. The magnitude of that tragedy and the depths of that privilege are not lost on me." So now that you know why children may be available for foster care, let me tell you the ways you can change their life. You can alter the direction of a child's life by opening your home to let them live with you and take care of their needs. Children need you, and you have inside of you the love that they need and the resources that you could use to take care of them. The question is, are you not willing to give them what you have? So if you're like me, you're thinking the little bit that I can offer is just a drop in the bucket, and that's right. My wife and I could not buy a home big enough to feed all the foster children or to house all the foster children in the world, but we can do what we can do. We live by a simple quote heard from Pastor Andy Stanley on his podcast. It says this: do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. Perhaps if you and I would all live by that idea, there would be no shortage of foster parents, and every kid would have a loving home because of our collective drops in the bucket have filled it to overflowing. So I hope today I've convinced you that there's a need for foster parents, and I've explained the reasons for children being in the foster system, and ultimately explain that you can change the life of a child by becoming a foster parent.